They say there's no good news.
There's no good news.
What do social media and sharecropping have in common? A whole lot. Way more than you would probably think. And that's what we're here to talk about. Me and my co-host, the Anonymous K9. But before we really start digging in, let's get our minds in the same place. Say there was a wide open plot of land, and the property owner, he's real cool. So he lets anybody pitch a tent, park a camper, drop your trailer, whatever. Somewhere on that property, there is a board nailed to a tree with some rules on it. And a few people, they take time to skim over it, but most don't. Because for the most part, you can live how you want on your little plot. You don't need a formal agreement, and you can live there for free. You've never met the guy who owns this place, but you know that this setup is real because thousands and thousands of people are already living there. They're already doing this. How confident would you feel about making that your home? Would you start building on your little plot, planning to make that your long-term permanent plan for you and for your family? Or how about if there was like this big old mall type building and anybody who wants to set up a business was free to claim a space? And you can run your business, it doesn't matter what kind of business it is, as long as for the most part it's nothing illegal. And once again, you don't need a lease, you don't need any type of agreement, and it's totally free. Now down some back hallway near the fire exit, there are some general rules, but most people never go back there to read them because there's really no need. For the most part, you can operate however you want. How comfortable would you be storing all of your inventory in this building? All of your equipment in this building? Would you build an empire on someone else's property? A complete stranger who didn't require any formal agreement? But please, I don't want you to answer these questions right now. What I want is for you to indulge us as we use a history lesson for a business lesson. Because when it comes to social media and sharecropping, it's like the same playbook, but different time, different setting. So first, let me start by saying, if you think this is another tragic race story, you're right. It really is. But it's also very much a class story. Because by the time sharecropping was over, about 2/3 of sharecroppers ended up being white. The fuckery was very inclusive then, just like it's very inclusive now. So no matter who you are, make yourself a drink and gather on around. So it's after the Civil War. Slavery is done. Now the former slaves are free people. And what they know is making their living off of the land. But of course they don't have any. And you also have the planters, an upper class of white people with large tracts of land. But now that slavery is over, they don't have people to work it. There's not a lot of cash and credit floating around for people to just be like, look, I need some funds to get my business up and running. So instead, people turn to a system called sharecropping. Under this system, the planters, which remember are the landowners, offer freedmen the opportunity to come onto their land and plant for a cut of the crop. So this is meant to look like a legit deal, like a business offer. As a freedman, you come, you plant, you get a portion of what grows. But think about it. Where are former slaves going to get money for seeds and for equipment? Where are they going to get the money to support themselves and their families until harvest? So what happens is they turn back to the planters again for credit. So now you have someone fronting you land, housing, food, seeds, your tools. It's like a zero investment startup. The planter provides the capital and all of the resources, and the freedmen provide the labor and the product. Doesn't that sound like something we see all the time?
Social media.
So let's think about the digital universe. Being online is basically digital property. A social media platform is basically digital territory. And these social media companies, they're basically online planters. They drum up the capital, set up an online territory, and offer users the plots and the tools. We just show up with the labor and the cotton. I meant content. You just show up with the labor and the content. Social media platforms, they need the content, you need a platform. Sharecropping, social media, if you look at it from the angle of a business opportunity that you can start for free, both sound like a sweet deal. But we all know when you're passing out sweet deals to the masses, a lot of people are bound to get fucked over. So when we're talking about sharecropping, we're talking about planting, about farming, about harvesting, about a business built on outcomes that you really can't predict. Prices go up and down, your harvest goes up and down, and when the harvest goes down, your cut is cut because the product isn't there. But remember, the freedmen are constantly running up debt, and the more snags they hit in their new enterprise, the less means they have to repay what they owe. Sharecropping, my friends, was a slave replacement system. It was a slavery alternative. And what it ended up doing was chaining people to debt. And it ended up chaining people to land that they did not own. The whole system was rigged. It was designed to keep people working for someone else's interest. Sharecroppers worked season after season, harvest after harvest, year after year, and every year they ended up in debt. Their push to get ahead got them nowhere. And why? Let's let Dr. William Jones break it down.
He did not recognize that the real situation was that they had been put into a disguised form, another form of servitude. And as long as they didn't see their condition as a continuous servitude, they would regard that as a good for them.
That's a clip from Lest We Forget, the lost stories of Southern sharecroppers. But I also want you to listen to this clip from PBS.
The new kind of slavery that soon pervaded the South. Sharecropping began, for instance, as a form of free labor in which a farmer would go to work, would work a portion of the land owned by another man in return for a share of the crop. But the laws that were being passed by the South and the threat of being arrested and forced into a much more terrible kind of penalty in a coal mine or on a prison farm somewhere, the threat of having that happen to any African American man meant that he could not defy the wishes of the white landowner where he was working. Again and again, for millions of African Americans working as sharecroppers, they and their families were as effectively held and immobilized on those farms in the 1890s and into the 1900s as their grandparents had been held as slaves.
So it's not like these people could be like, you know what? Those numbers didn't shake out right. I think I'm just going to go somewhere else and start some other business. Just because these people were now free didn't mean they were free to do whatever they want. First, remember they didn't have the resources. They didn't have the money to just leave. And a lot of them didn't even have enough food or the sources to get food for them to get up and leave. Furthermore, in some cases, it was almost impossible for them to just go, especially while they were in debt. The police, the law, I'm sure you can guess whose side they were on. Sometimes when sharecroppers tried to leave, the sheriff and the good old boys would catch them, round them up, and bring them right back to the same landowners that they were trying to get away from, if they didn't do something worse to them. Like that dude said, millions of sharecroppers were just as chained to the land as slaves. But it wasn't just natural causes like a poor harvest or things like that that kept the odds stacked against them. Like I told you, The system was rigged. But how? What do I mean? Well, here's some insight from another PBS clip.
So if I am entitled to a percentage of the crop, the question that arises, when do I get to take my percentage? Do I get to pick my bale of cotton first and then take it to the market to sell? When do I get my cut? And so there was a lot of initial conflicts between landowners and farmers over how we divvy up the proceeds of sharecropping. And
so there were several reasons that there were conflicts divvying up the crops. One reason is because a lot of sharecroppers didn't have formal agreements. So the deal was whatever the planners said it was. Who the hell were you? A landless black or a poor white man who needed to come to me to grow on my property? What exactly were you going to do as a sharecropper if I decided to change the terms? Just like an algorithm, when it changes, yeah, you have a plot on a platform, but who the hell are you? That's not your property. You're not in control. You don't even know how the algorithm works. So the same was true for the sharecroppers without contracts or with verbal agreements. The terms could change anytime. Another issue the sharecroppers had was even if they did have a contract, guess who was keeping the books? Guess who did the counting? Guess who calculated the debt? Some sharecroppers, for example, they were required to make their personal and business purchases throughout the year from specific commissary stores linked to the planners that they worked for. And of course, those stores were jacking up the prices. The Encyclopedia of Arkansas gave the example of potatoes that might be priced at $2.25 at the commissary store, but in town they were $1.75. Now, if you run debt with that kind of markup throughout the year, how do you think your finances would look at the end of that year? Here's an account from an interview with a sharecropper named Henry Blake. When we worked on shares, we couldn't make nothing, just overalls and something to eat. Half went to the other man, and you would destroy your half if you weren't careful. A man that didn't know how to count would always lose. He might lose anyhow. They didn't give no itemized statement. Nope. You just had to take their word. They never give you no details. They just say you owe so much. No matter how good account you kept, you had to go by their account. And if you want to hear it firsthand from someone who was out there in the field sharecropping, I got you.
And at the end of the year, how many bills of corn you made, how many peanuts as a white man would do. Oh yeah, 200 you got. And you had a paper for what you got during the year. You had to get the stuff on the credit. And then when the end of the year comes, we're going to have a settlement tomorrow or the next day. They meet together and they would take all the money from it. You had to work another year back in debt for nothing. You come out, bring it back out in debt.
Okay, but that was them, and that was then. That's what you might be thinking. Why am I telling you all of this? What does it have to do with you? What does it have to do with social media? There are a lot of similarities in how the sharecropping system operated and how these big social media and content platforms operate. The way that the landowner was the record keeper, the recurring cycles of debt. Think back to when even small emerging YouTube channels were monetized. Those YouTube channels were earning a share of the revenue while they built their audience. But one day, YouTube decided to just demonetize them all. So the company essentially swept all the money off the books for the people who hadn't earned enough to get a payout. YouTube was just like, you know what? On second thought, we think we'll just go ahead and take this money back. I don't even know how YouTube got away with that, with taking back money that was already credited to your account as earnings. But anyway, never mind that you're already only earning cents. YouTube decided, oh, you peons, you don't even deserve that. Work more, work harder.
I got you.
On top of that, YouTube then set eligibility requirements for a channel to even apply to be monetized. So now, not only does a channel need at least 1,000 subscribers, it also needs 4,000 hours of watch time within a 12-month span. So let's say you launch your channel in January, and there's a lot of hype around it. You know, that's your best month. You might get 500 hours of watch time, and you keep working all year. By the time next January rolls around, if you only have 3,500 hours of watch time, you still don't qualify to get monetized. And oh, by the way, that 500 hours from last January, that gets wiped off the book at the end of the month. So your 12-month running total just got lower. So factor all of that in. YouTube took away the money that small channels already earned so that they could keep it all. They raised the bar for earning any money at all, and they use an algorithm that you really know little, if anything, about, that they change whenever they like. But yet, that algorithm is used to determine the success of your videos. Oh, and if you didn't know, YouTube recently announced that they were going to run more ads than in the past. So more money for them from your content while your work gets you nothing. Okay, I stand corrected. You get a free plot to tend and free tools to get the work done. The illusion of the sweet deal. Oh. And what about the record keeping issues? You would think in modern times the terms of business arrangements are cut and clear. If there's anything that involves money, everybody who's involved would know what's involved. But that's far from the case, especially when it comes to these social media platforms. So many people set out to become YouTubers. They want to make it big, yet they have no idea how YouTube ad revenue works. They have no idea what percentage they'll get paid. They have no idea when they'll even get paid, if they'll get paid. Listen to Paul Richards from Stream Geeks. This is the experience they had when they did a fundraiser on YouTube using Super Chats.
By the end, we raised $776. So I thought, hey, this is great. You know, we're going to have a whole bunch of money for this charity. But when I went to go look at our revenue in YouTube, and that goes to Google AdSense, I found out that it was only 70% of the actual captured Super Chat dollars. So that is something you need to keep in mind. YouTube will be taking 30%.
I know a lot of you are like, yeah, well, that's him. But trust me, it's not an isolated case. There are so many YouTubers who have videos about something happening to their money, or they didn't realize how much they were going to get, or they didn't get what they thought that they were going to get. You could spend a week's vacation watching videos on that topic. But anyway, hear what else Richards found out from the fundraiser.
So we raised $776, and our estimated revenue was only $552. It says estimated revenue because it actually has to clear for 30 days all of the viewers who do Super Chat. They have up to 30 days to say, you know what, I don't really want to pay for that. And you have to be very careful. I looked at some other YouTubers who have, done certain things for Super Chats and then found out that the people donating those Super Chats are actually taking it away and saying, you know what, I want a refund for that.
So not only do a lot of people not know how the money is divvied up, they don't even know the terms for their own money. And they don't get any input on those terms. So you get what they give you, if they want to give it to you, when they give it to you, and how they want to give it to you. These platforms engage in a lot of foolery, like interfering with your ability to set money directly, or like YouTube taking it upon themselves to set your refund policy. And why do you think platforms invest so much in designing terms and restrictions for your money that you earn off of your labor with your content? Are there any lessons history could teach us? Maybe from the sharecropping system? Let's tune into the PBS video again.
And one of the things that landowners were particularly keen to control was black buying and selling of cotton. So if you were a sharecropper and you wanted to sell your cotton to a different merchant or to a black merchant, increasingly became quite difficult for you to do that. Some of the laws that were passed to control the buying and selling of cotton were the laws that really tripped up the free people the most. These were laws that made it a crime to buy and sell after dark. For example, you had sun up to sundown laws. These were laws that made it a crime to buy and sell other than to a legitimate merchant. These were laws that even made it illegal to transport cotton at night. Now, these were clearly all meant to control legitimate economic commerce. If this cotton is mine, why can't I transport it and sell it to whom I please? But this kind of control was meant to, over the marketplace, was used in Alabama to exert control over black renters and over black sharecroppers. They wanted to make sure they did not achieve that kind of economic independence that was so desired.
So the landowners offered what seemed like a free opportunity, and sharecroppers jumped on it, thinking they would earn enough to eventually get their own property. That's what they wanted. Most of them wanted their own land. Ultimately, that was the goal, to break free and be independent. But the landowners tried to control every possible element of the situation so people could never achieve economic independence. Sharecropping was a slavery replacement system, I told you. It was meant to provide an alternative for making money off of other people, and it relied on the illusion of a sweet deal. I know a lot of you are going to resist the idea of getting anywhere close to connecting content creators and sharecroppers. But look at how many people are working longer and harder and doing work they never set out to do for the sake of pleasing the machine on social media platforms. Think about how many people have gone to Instagram thinking they're going to use it one way, but they get on and their mission goes in a whole different direction. They thought they would post how they want, when they want, but once they're on the platform, they're driven by the unspoken rules, trying to gain favor with the algorithm. So first they increase their frequency. They need to post every day, then 3, 4, 5 times a day. Then they start to realize, oh, I have to make video posts. Oh, I need to use stories. Oh, now there are reels. I have to figure out how that works and create content for that. Oh, and by the way, I need to respond to all of my comments. The number of hours spent on Instagram or working on content to put on Instagram steadily grows and grows and grows. Meanwhile, all of this IGTV, the stories, the reels, the posts, Instagram is monetizing that content, and most people don't get a dime. These free platforms design a system where if you want to be relevant, if you want maximum exposure, you have to create more and more and more content so they can keep attracting users, so they can keep making money, or at least you're led to believe that's the case. And all of that work, that's not even what a lot of people set out to do. A lot of people who go to these platforms are artists, writers, musicians, videographers, whatever. They're creatives. They set out to build an empire around their creativity, but they end up sharecropping on some social media platform for nothing more than clicks and views. They end up burned out and hating what they do. I saw so many Instagram influencers at the beginning of this year who talked about having to come off the platform because they were basically burnt out and lost. They didn't know what the hell they were doing or why they were doing it. All they knew is that they were doing work trying to please the algorithm. And of course that happened because when you're driven by the wrong motives, you're going to end up off track. But so many vowed that they were going to take back control of how they're using the platform. They claimed they're going to start demanding value from their work. A lot of these people that you see with all of these followers and all of these likes and views, they aren't making any money off of their social media work. At best, they're getting free products. And yes, there are some other people who are making money. Hella money. But a lot of them are paying a dear price. Take Jacksepticeye. He's a gaming YouTuber. He came into 2021 with 26 million subscribers. This dude, he's a success, but he was basically considering quitting YouTube altogether. He said he basically didn't have time to do anything outside of YouTube. He made a video talking about how he was mentally burned out. He was so tired of making videos. He was mentally drained all year. He said his mental health took a huge beating last year. And he talked about trying to keep pushing, even though he was going through a slew of health issues. Not mental health, but physical health issues. Listen to him describe it.
And I don't talk about any of this stuff because, again, I don't want to make it everybody else's problem and make it seem like I don't want people to worry about me, and I don't want people to start making a big deal about things and pitying me too much. But it got really serious for a while, and I took the month off at one point because I was just so mentally burned out. I thought I was going to quit YouTube because I thought, I'm so tired of doing this. I was so mentally drained all year. I didn't know what I wanted out of myself. When I would upload videos, I wasn't getting any fulfillment out of it, and I thought, what if I feel like I'm a nobody outside of my channel, and I feel like I'm not happy and I can't do things outside of my channel, and I can't function because I've been doing this for so long that I don't know who I am outside of that. So I took a month off to really kind of like soul search and reflect on myself.
So after years hustling to build up this YouTube channel, after sacrificing his identity, his health, basically his life, it took a 1-month break for him to realize that he was lost in the system. He was not actually driving the bus anymore. He was being driven by the machine.
I realized I can be happy outside of Jacksepticeye. Like, Sean McLaughlin is still a person that exists, that is fully happy beyond all of this. So if my channel dies and I did quit, I would be perfectly contented. So I came back to doing YouTube, and I still do YouTube because I get fulfillment out of it, because I like the process. I like the creativity in it. I like making videos, and it's not just about numbers and money and all that kind of thing. And I'm really glad that I took that time off to realize that for myself, because for a while I just didn't know.
So he's another one who's reached the conclusion that he needed to change things up. Listen again.
And having gotten over that, now I can make videos in a much happier state. How long will I do YouTube? I have no idea. It does cross my mind every now and then, like, what if I just quit and did other things? Like, still do YouTube, but not daily. And I still don't do daily anymore because it's just not fulfilling to do daily when all you're doing is uploading for the sake of uploading.
And it's not just him. From PewDiePie to Elle Mills, a lot of major social media personalities either had to take breaks because they were so burnt out, suffering from depression, facing or trying to manage mental health issues. In a Hollywood Reporter article, YouTuber Lilly Singh, she has nearly 15 million subscribers, and she makes comedy videos. And she said, quote, "I came home one day and I remember lying on the kitchen floor and just crying. I turned into such a machine. I was feeling I was completely losing what it means to be a human being." That's how she described her life. Social media careers are not the rosy, free-spirited, free labor system that people think. Yes, some people make it. Likewise, some sharecroppers made it. Remember that sharecropper, Henry Blake? He said when Christmas came around, even if you were in debt, because you were always in debt, you could take up to $20. You could get food. You could get as much whiskey as you wanted. Anything that kept you a slave. He said if you were a good hand, meaning a good field hand, you could take up to 40 or 50 acres of land and you could have a large family. You could get clothes, food, whiskey, whenever you wanted it. You could get all of that. But what you couldn't get was financial independence. And isn't that what a lot of social media influencers get? Something that makes them feel good, clicks, views, large numbers of followers, but still, no money, no financial independence.
But boy, you've been sharecropping all your life, and you ain't got a thing to show for it.
And a lot of the sharecroppers who did make it, whether it was with good credit terms or eventually breaking out of the system, like social media stars, they paid a dear price. A lot of these people worked their whole families for decades. The women were doing domestic chores for the landowners, a lot of times for free. The children had to stop going to school for months out of every year to harvest, to help pick the crops. But most, the vast majority, white and black sharecroppers didn't make it, so to speak. They worked and worked and worked and ended up with absolutely nothing. And like we heard early on, a major reason why sharecroppers ended up getting exploited is because they did not recognize the system that they were in. And by the time some of them did figure it out, they were too deep in the game and still didn't have a way to break free and be independent. And it may seem different for social media platforms, but it's not. It may seem that people aren't chained to these platforms. It may seem like it's a free system where they can get up and leave anytime they want. But let's just think about that. People who have built an audience on one platform, people who are eating off that platform, how are they going to just leave? How are they going to migrate their audience and monetize them? Here's the thing. A lot of content creators have a one platform relationship with their followers. And that term, followers, that's actually misleading. Because in a lot of cases, the people that engage with your content on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, wherever, a lot of those people aren't following you anywhere. If you drop off that platform, it's out of sight, out of mind for you. You're relevant in that one place for them. They're not going to look for you anywhere else. So it blows my mind how many people try to be a one platform wonder. Oh, I want to be a YouTuber, or oh, I want to be an Instagram influencer. You want to build your entire business on Instagram, YouTube, Facebook. Where is your contract? Where is your Bill of Rights? Where are the terms of that agreement? These one platform empires people have built or are trying to build, they're extremely dangerous. Because it puts someone else in control of your livelihood. Someone else can literally snatch your plate off the table anytime. You own nothing. Look at the former president, Donald J. Trump. He was supposedly the man. When social media shut him down, he was basically shut down. He was supposed to be such a savvy businessman, but he was sharecropping. As a real estate mogul, you would have thought he knew better than relying on using someone else's property with no formal agreement. But obviously not. So social media platforms got caked up off of his foolishness. As long as it was in their interest, then they shut his ass down when that was in their best interest.
What you've done, you fool!
Another victim of the illusion of the sweet deal. Remember, I told you, the fuckery is inclusive. So sharecropping started falling apart in the 1930s, and it pretty much died in the 1940s. The system broke down for a number of reasons. Tools were developed to replace some of the human labor. Sharecroppers started leaving the fields to get jobs in factories. And that's the case with social media too. A lot of people start out trying to build something they can live off, and all they end up accomplishing is helping the platforms. They leave frustrated, defeated, to go get real jobs. So what am I saying? Why am I saying it? What difference does it make? Am I suggesting that people leave social media? No, I'm not. But I want you to think about the questions I asked earlier. Would you create a home on someone else's property? Would you build an empire in space that you don't own? A lot of you probably thought, hell nah, at that point, not even realizing that's basically what so many people are doing right now with social media. So what I'm encouraging, actually what I'm urging you to do, is diversify. One of the reasons that a lot of followers aren't actually followers is because content creators don't encourage them to be. do not anchor yourself to one platform. There may be one you prefer. There may be one that you use a lot more than others, but you still need to diversify. If you take notice, a lot of the seasoned content creators, the ones with huge audiences, the ones that are making big bucks from their platform, they're now spreading themselves out. YouTubers have gotten on podcast platforms. They're using Discord and Patreon and a variety of other platforms because that's the smart way to go about it. And in addition to using platforms, have your own piece of online real estate. You need your own site. Not only should you have a site that you own and you control, but you also need to promote it. Too many content creators are out here drumming up platform loyalty for platforms that aren't theirs. They only encourage their audience to like, follow, subscribe, turn on notifications, whatever, for the platform that audience is on. Push people to connect with you in different places and make sure that one of those places is your own turf. And also, use social media in a way that benefits you, your business, your vision. Don't allow social media to dictate to you which way your business needs to go and how much time and effort you need to dedicate to a platform. There are times that you won't find me on social media very much at all. When that's the case, it's not because I don't want to engage with my audience, but it's because that time needs to go to other things. I'll be back, but I'm not going to have social media holding me hostage. I'm not going to have any platform demanding that I be there when there are more lucrative or productive things that I can be doing with my time. If you take nothing else away from this podcast, please remember this. Use social media. Do not allow social media to use you. Well, y'all, it's been a real one, but it is time for us to get out of here. So I'm Misha Anai, aka No Good Writer, and I was joined by my co-host, the Anonymous K9. You will be able to find all of the articles, books, videos, all of the resources used to create this podcast in the show notes at nogoodwords.com. While you're there, go to the right-hand side of the page and sign up for Direct Connect so that we can be linked up. You can get all of the good stuff, the articles, the posts. You'll be the first to know. And if you would like to show me and my co-host some love, you can find our Cash App and PayPal details wherever you found this podcast. Until next time, folks.